All right, LBHT crew, thanks for hanging out with us on Sunday after that Ravens debacle. We are going to discuss it a little bit more and just, kind of go over what the issues are with the team and is there any hope for this team? But first, if you're new here, do us a favor and take a minute to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos in the future. All right, B, what happened, man?
Well, you can't block anybody.
No.
Lamar is not playing hero ball anymore. He's been struggling the past about the past 4 games or so.
Yeah.
And the defense fell apart a bit at the end. And it was a rivalry game, and Pittsburgh always gets up to beat Baltimore, especially at home. So, all those things came together. And I mean, it was still a close game. They still had a chance right there at the very end, and they just, Lamar and Andrews couldn't connect. But overall, yeah, it was a pretty poor effort from Baltimore.
Yeah. So, all right, let's start with the obvious, Lamar Jackson, right? It begins and ends with Lamar Jackson. But I'm going to take it a little bit further, right? You're saying it's been like the last 3 or 4 games that he hasn't played well. Honestly, the struggles have started since the beginning of the year. Now, what made us look away were his great performances down the stretch in the Kansas City game and the Indianapolis game.
Yeah.
But what happened there? You had games where we fell behind. And I think when we get behind and we absolutely have to get some points on the board, I think our plans on offense just go out the window and they just tell Lamar, go out there and just win us the game. And that's when he's best in this offense, right?
Mhm.
Because I just don't think this offense is that well structured. Definitely not structured for him at this point. And it's just too clunky. You don't have the O-line to protect them. And this coaching staff cannot make the adjustments. I know you guys hate me on me harping on the offense or the coaching as much as I do, but look, man, it's their job to get this team ready. And even if you take Lamar out of the equation, nobody else seems ready to go out there. So yes, I'm going to put a lot of blame on them, but in terms of Lamar, it just hasn't been good for him from the get-go. He's had some great moments because that's the type of player Lamar is, but he hasn't really been in rhythm with this offense all year.
Yeah, and they've been winning games. They're 8-4, so you kind of overlook that and say, oh, they always find a way to win. But at some point, you need to get 60 good minutes out of the defense and 60 good minutes out of the offense, and they're not
Yes.
getting that. And again, part of that is due to injury. They're missing some guys on defense. Not that they should be playing as poorly as they are, but it's going to affect you at times. The offensive line, they knew what they had coming into the season. Even before Ronnie Stanley got hurt, it was not a good offensive line, and they just kind of they were negligent about it. So and you once again decided not to go with the proven vet at wide receiver. Hollywood's playing; he's been playing well for most of the season. Rashad Bateman looks good. He looks like that was a good pick. I think he's going to be the real deal. But again, especially at wide receiver, young guys take a while to come along.
Yeah.
So, Rashad Bateman's not really producing to the level that you would kind of need him to in order to make it okay that you passed on, more proven players at that position. And Sammy Watkins is being Sammy Watkins. You're getting exactly what you paid for and exactly what he's given other teams out of Sammy Watkins. So you can't even complain there. You were just kind of hoping that you could go cheap and get a great return, but that hasn't happened.
Yeah. Let's take a closer look at the game real quick. So we started out that first drive hot, go down the field, everything looks good. And then Lamar just makes a boneheaded pass. There's no other way to put it. Right. We can psychoanalyze why he did it. Right. We all have our thoughts on that. But the fact is, you should not have made that throw. Right. You're
it was
already
a terrible decision and a terrible throw. Both.
Yes.
Because the decision was bad, but the throw itself was awful.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And I think that, with Lamar, I don't think he's the kind of quarterback who, wants to be out there for No, that was an 11 play drive. He doesn't want to be 11, 12, 13 plays trying to score. Lamar is a big play making player, a big play making quarterback,
Yeah.
right? And in Baltimore, I think one of the problems is on offense, they just don't have guys who make plays after they get the ball.
Yeah.
Hollywood's not really that guy. Bateman's not really that guy.
No.
And the same with Watkins and Andrews. They'll make catches, but you're not really looking at those guys to get big yards after the catch consistently. And I think that's just an element that they're missing. But obviously, with the offense, the number one thing is that O-line can't block anybody.
Yeah. So yes, I said something on our live stream after the game that if Lamar wants to improve his passing immediately, stop targeting Mark Andrews, because Mark Andrews can make some highlight catches here and there, but he'll also drop big time catches. And he's just not consistent either. And he's a good tight end, right? He's one of the best tight ends in the league, but he's not that, Gonzalez, Gronk type of player, the Antonio Gates type of player. He's a step below those guys. And when he's under duress or he's trying to make that big play, he's always looking Andrews' way. And sometimes he comes down with it, and sometimes it's an interception. And, that interception that he threw in that first drive was not on Andrews. It was just a bad pass.
Yeah.
But he saw Andrews in the back of the field of the end zone, and he figured, I can get the ball to him, and he couldn't get it to him. Make the safer play there. You're already in field goal range. You're playing a team that's been struggling all year. Just take the early lead and go out there the next drive and execute.
I think those are the kind of plays that the guys make when they're frustrated. And they're looking to just make something happen. Like even though that was the first drive of the game, they haven't been playing well on offense for, like I said, about a month. They haven't scored 20 points in a while.
Yeah.
And I think he's trying to break out of that. He's trying desperately to force the offense back into rhythm. And you feel like that's the right thing to do, right? But that it almost never works.
Yeah. So we end up taking a lead, right? Because same issue in Pittsburgh. Their O-line is decimated. They struggle to put up points, right? And even the defense is not consistent. So they're a team that has a lot of similar struggles as us. So it was kind of back and forth, punting for a little bit. Then we end up scoring a touchdown. And it felt like we were in control at that point, right? Because Pittsburgh couldn't really do anything. And I believe we go 10-0, and then it was like 10-3. Even at 10-3, I was just like, this team doesn't have anything. All we have to do is just punch it in for a touchdown, and that's going to be it.
Yeah.
All right. It felt like 17-3, 17, 10 or something like that, or 20-10 would be the final score, because it just didn't look like Pittsburgh had anything. But like we've been doing, we let teams hang around, and then they figure out a way to get back in the game, and then we don't respond. Right. And until it's too late, because we let them go all the way up, take the lead, and then all of a sudden we saw offense in that last 2 minutes that we hadn't seen the whole game. And I've heard Greg Roman, I've heard John Harbaugh talk about this before, about not wanting to give away all their plays early on, or say something toward for the end of the game. And this is a problem that I've had with John Harbaugh dating years back. This is back in Flacco days. I've told B this. I always felt like Harbaugh always holds back on the plays that he calls until we get later down the stretch and into the playoffs, because he wants to show teams something that they haven't seen before, and that is a bad idea.
It's a terrible idea. And it's a ridiculous idea.
Yeah.
Like you don't have anything that anybody in the NFL hasn't seen before.
No.
Like, and if you're struggling in these games, like it's one thing when you're 14-2 and you've got the number one offense and you got the number one defense and you're just rolling people. Okay, I mean, you don't have to run all your trick plays and everything, whatever. But when you're struggling every week, what are you waiting for? Because they're 8-4 right now. They've had a really soft schedule up until this point. So if you're struggling against Cleveland and Green Bay and the Rams and Cincinnati, are you still going to be thinking, yeah, I got to save it for the playoffs? Or are you gonna empty empty both chambers, like they say?
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, we got on Lamar. Right. We picked on the coaching staff a little bit. We're gonna pick on the coaching staff some more right now, and then we're gonna save the best for last. We're gonna get to EDC, right? But coaching staff, yes, I am hard on them because they have shown that with dwindling talent or just enough injuries, they're not good enough to make adjustments, right? We brought it up yesterday. One team had 7 sacks. They sacked Lamar 7 times, right? Our side, how many sacks do we get?
I
Zero.
believe that was Settle.
Zero. And they don't have a good O line.
Right.
So what happened there, B? Like how come this team that's evenly matched with us and just as bad of an O line, just as bad as of an O line, how was it we got 0 sacks and they got 7 sacks?
Well, I mean that comes down to one thing really. One team has Chris Wormley and the other doesn't. Right.
Yeah.
No, but in Pittsburgh, this is something that they've adjusted to.
Yes.
They know that they don't have a good O line, and last year, they did it last year. They throw the ball faster than anybody else. I'm
Yes.
not sure if that's still the case this season, but they get rid of the ball really quickly because, well, one, they can't protect. Two, they know Ben can't really throw the ball down the field anymore. So what's the solution? We've got all these receivers. We're just going to throw it short and let them make plays when they get the ball in their hands.
Yes.
And in Baltimore, not so much.
So this is the issue I have with the coaching staff, which is why I'm always hard. And I can't, it's not on Greg Roman because it's John Harbaugh's job as the head coach to say, we got to have a faster offense. We got to get the ball out of the hands quicker. And I heard on the broadcast yesterday, they mentioned that Harbaugh had said something to Lamar about getting the ball out quicker, but the plays aren't drawn up for him to get the ball out quicker. Right. And you're relying on him to go through his reads and then doing a check down. That's different. That's different from, hey, 2-step drop, look for this guy. He should be open. We don't run that kind of offense. And what frustrates me is, and this is where we get into criticizing Eric DaCosta, is you went into the season knowing that this O-line was going to be the worst O-line Lamar played behind since he's been in the league. You knew that without a doubt. You traded Orlando Brown away, who was a Pro Bowl tackle, right? You knew Ronnie Stanley wasn't 100%. You knew that, right? And you tried to rush him out there because you saw how bad the O-line was looking, but you knew he wasn't going to be 100%. You knew the rest of that O-line, the interior O-line, was up in the air how they were going to perform.
Yeah.
It was a big question mark. So you knew that was going to be a problem, and you decided to go into this season with essentially the same offense, right? This is the coaching staff not making the adjustments like the Steelers did. They said, all right, we can't protect because Villanueva was on that team last year. They said, we can't protect Ben Roethlisberger. He can't move like he used to. He doesn't have the arm. So we're not going to put him through that torture of getting hit every time. We're going to get the ball off his hands quickly. And it works, right? We need to make that same adjustment. What we're doing right now does not work.
Yeah. And also, too, they have playmakers in Pittsburgh that you just simply do not have in Baltimore. Baltimore doesn't have a receiver like Deontay Johnson. Baltimore doesn't really have a receiver even like Chase Claypool. Or Juju. I mean, Juju's hurt. He didn't play. Obviously, he's out for the year. But they don't have a player like that either, right?
Yeah.
And to your point about about the O-line and EDC, man, like I know they spent a lot of picks. They drafted Ben Bredesen. They drafted Ben Powers. They drafted Ben Cleveland. They drafted Tyree Phillips. They went out and they signed Kevin Zeitler. That's a lot of a lot of change on the O-line, right? But outside of Kevin Zeitler, you don't have any idea if any of these guys can play. And the guy who everybody is loving or has been loving this season, Patrick McCarry, who came in and to the best of his ability, solidified that right tackle spot after Ronnie Stanley went down. On Monday, before cutdown day, it was a question whether he was going to be on the team.
Yes.
At that point, Tyree Phillips was supposed to be the starting guard. Then he went down, and so they've kind of been cycling guys through. Then McCarry went out to tackle, and it's just like you don't have a plan for any of these guys you drafted. They accumulate a lot of draft picks. They draft as many guys as they can. They bring them all in and they say, now fight it out and see who's gonna rise to the top. And it's not about, okay, we're drafting this guy because we have a plan for what we want to do with him. We have a plan for how to develop him and where he's going to play. We're going to bring in this other guy because he's going to play at this other spot. It's just, well, we're not going to develop you. We're not going to coach you. So you go out there, you play in any position that you can get on the field in, and just outperform everybody else, and that's how you survive. And it shows on the team, they're not developed. They're not ready to play.
That's the thing, right? It's one thing to say they're not talented enough. They're not strong enough to block a TJ Watt. Most people aren't, right? They're just, they don't have those physical gifts to really hold up in that area. That's understandable. But when we're talking about not understanding your assignments, right? These pre-snap penalties, they had 8 of them, by the way, right? That's a coaching thing. That is totally within your control. And they keep having these issues. That's a coaching thing. That's where you come in as a coach and have to be able to coach them up in that area. And yes, Eric DeCosta is to blame for this poor O-line, but Lamar has to play behind this O-line, and we judge Lamar the same way. Yeah. The coaches need to be judged the same way, right? You can't say it's not fair to judge Greg Roman this way because the O-line's playing bad. Well, Lamar plays behind that O-line, and what are we saying about Lamar right now? He's playing terrible.
Yeah.
Therefore, Greg Roman is doing a terrible job. Yeah. That's how it works. Because if you can't get Lamar Jackson going, that falls on you. That falls on you. When we get to the end of the season, and if he keeps playing like this, if he doesn't snap out of it, and I think he will. But if he doesn't get it going, they're gonna have a sit down. Steve Bisciotti, Eric DeCosta are going to be saying, "Hey, what happened with Lamar? Like, how can we fix that?" And if they don't have a good answer, what would you do? Because Lamar is getting signed, right? Yeah. He's not getting signed. He's not getting a discount. It doesn't matter how he plays at this point. Lamar's getting the biggest contract for a quarterback at that time he signs. That's going to happen. So what are you going to do with him? Right? You have a coach here says, I don't know. He just needs to play better. He needs to do better. That's not a good enough answer. What are you going to do for your offense to make sure he thrives moving forward?
Yeah, and to me, it's not even a sit down because there's no discussion. It's not working, right?
Yeah,
and he's gotten worse every year, right? He had the MVP year, and then he had a slightly down year. He still played well,
yes,
and now he's playing worse than last year. And Lamar's not going anywhere. Lamar is the future of the Ravens. Yes. Lamar is the foundation of the Baltimore Ravens. So it's not a discussion. It's you failed, you're fired. And now we got to bring somebody else in.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that at the end of the season. We got to see how the season plays out because the fact of the matter is we're still number 1 in the AFC North. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we play the Cleveland Browns next week. That's another game that we should win because that team is also a mess. So we win that game. That takes us to 9 wins. And then we're looking at Rams, Packers, Bengals, and Steelers again, right? Not necessarily in that order, but those are the 4. Those are the teams that we have left on our schedule. I think the Steelers are the last game of the season. So, I think we could still win 4 out of those 5 games, right? At least 3, but I think we can win 4. That puts us in the playoffs. That probably gets us a division title. So we'll be in the playoffs, guys. But what are we going to do in the playoffs? I don't see us going to the Super Bowl, right? Anything could happen. But right now, no, I don't see it. But in the offseason, we're going to have a real discussion about this team. We have to look at, okay, yes, we had a lot of injuries to key players. Got to factor that in. But also, look, man, that O-line, Eric DeCosta put together that O-line. He drafted a lot of players. 30 I'm not sure, 30, 31, something like that. That's how many players he's drafted in 3 years. He's had double-digit picks in just about all these drafts. He's not going to sit there and say, man, I'm doing a terrible job at finding guys. He's not going to say that. He's going to say, why aren't you getting the most out of these guys?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a tough discussion at the end of the year. But all right, do we need to add anything else? Oh, we didn't even talk about the defense.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to talk too much there. I mean, they're the worst pass defense in the league right now, and they just lost one of the best corners in the league. So you do the math on that. With Aaron Rodgers and the Rams and Joe Burrow coming to town.
I think we need to talk about the defense because, again, you guys know our saying here, hashtag defund the defense. People get on us for saying that you don't, some of you guys don't like it. So some of you have come around. You understand what we're saying. Mm-hmm. But when you spend that much on the defensive side of the ball and you're not expecting them to carry the team, right? That's what we're talking about. They need to carry the team. They can't just do okay for 3 quarters and then fall apart at the end of the game, because that's what happened. They fell apart, right? Every single game, even when they play well, they're always giving up big plays at the end of the game. And all I hear are excuses. Oh, well, too many 3 and outs. Oh, well, they got tired. Don't get tired.
Yeah, they have depth. They don't get tired.
Yeah, don't get tired. You want this team to be the defense that we had back in the 2000s. And that team had Kyle Bowler. That was an awful offense. Yeah. Okay. They expected 3 and outs constantly. They never faltered. This defense is constantly falling apart at the end of the game, right? You can say they're young, you can say it's injured, you can say whatever. That's just all excuses, right? It's never going to be on the defense. And it's true, right? We are hurt. I think next year, everybody comes back healthy. We are going to be a better defense, but also this also shows you that,
maybe
maybe
they didn't have a lot of injuries on the defense to start the season, and they were bad.
But that is true. And again, that speaks to Wink Martindale, right? We're not fans of these coordinators. Wink Martindale is somebody that has to have a lot of talent in order for it to work. Well, if you need talent at every position, what are you really doing?
Right. You're not doing anything.
He will not stop calling zero blitzes in the worst moments, right? That's just who he is. This guy is not going to change. We all said it last year when we traded for Yannick Ngakoue. They're still going to blitz. People thought, oh, well, we don't have to blitz as much. We never had to blitz that much. He wants to blitz that much. He still wants to blitz that much. He's not going to change who he is.
Yeah, he's a romantic, right? Like, when people look at him and say, don't call zero blitz on 4th and 11, you could die. He's going to say, you could live. Right? Like it's just what he believes.
He said, well, I'm going to die trying.
Right. I'm going to die a beautiful death. No, man.
Yeah.
Just drop back in coverage and force the turnover on downs. That's all.
All right. So that's our rant, man. We want to kind of give some more thoughts after our post-game show on this, because it's very concerning. It's positive in the fact that we are still winning. We're still finding ways to win, even though Lamar is playing the worst football he's probably ever played in his life.
Yeah.
He's still finding ways to help get these teams these wins. And that, look, for everybody involved, that speaks a lot to the team, right? That winning attitude as an organization, as a team. I will give John Harbaugh props for that, but it's not enough, right? It's not enough. The standard has to be higher. We have to be trying to win Super Bowls, not just maintaining. So, look, we'll see how we finish out the rest of the season. I think things are still looking up. We're going to win games. They're going to be ugly, but we'll win them. And then we just got to just pray for something in the playoffs, right? I don't feel good about Super Bowl this year. I'm going to be rooting for it. But let's fight hard and then get to the off season and really come back in 2022 and really be locked in and win the Super Bowl.
All I'll say for Baltimore, and we'll just end on this. This is for Ravens fans.
Yeah.
Because this is something that happens, a lot in Baltimore with Ravens fans. Just remember how you feel right now. You're out here talking about Lamar got to be better, and he does, and the offense got to be better. Just remember that, and don't come here saying anything about safeties or corners or edge rushers or anything this offseason when we start talking about the draft. Remember how you feel right now, because this is the reality of the team. The offense is not good enough, and they need to fix the O-line. I mean, I would like to see them put more, talent at receiver, even more than they have.
Absolutely.
But they have to fix the O-line, and that's the only thing I want to hear from Ravens fans come this offseason.